So maybe you're sitting in your empty house, staring out the empty walls, everything is packed up, and you're wondering what's next. Or maybe you just walked out of the doctor's office after hearing news you weren't ready for. Or you finally got that email you've been waiting for that says you didn't get the job, that they're going in a different direction. Or you're sitting in your car after a breakup, just trying to catch your breath. And you feel the pain, the shock, the grief, the disappointment, the disbelief. And then something else starts. The voice. The story that you start telling yourself. I should have known. This is all my fault. Or of course this happened. Or I ruined everything. Or I don't deserve the kind of love I want. Or I can't trust myself. Just that endless loop. The voice that feels so real. It feels like truth, like a fact. And that's what I want to talk about today. Not minimizing your pain, not overriding your grief, not pretending it didn't hurt or doesn't hurt, but looking at the meaning we assign those painful moments, especially the meaning we assign ourselves. So if we haven't met, I'm Destiny Ray L. I'm a trauma-informed life and grief coach, and this is the kind of work I do every day with my clients, including myself, and just unpeeling the layers underneath our pain so we can start to move through it and with it, not just react from it. In my last video, we talked about the vows we make in pain. The I'll never or I'll never again statements, the protective promises and the rules we create to guard our heart. So if you haven't watched that yet, I'll link that below and you can watch that. Because underneath every vow is a story we tell ourselves. And today I want to walk through how those stories form, how we respond to those stories, and just offer you a simple framework you can actually use to reflect on them and begin to reshape them and maybe separate yourself from them to find something that actually supports you instead of defeats you. Because there's a difference between what happened and what we decide it means about us. When something painful happens, your brain just doesn't like uncertainty. It wants to make sense of it. It wants to find a reason. And if there's gaps in what happened, and usually there is, your mind fills them up. It wants to fill up the space with its own versions. It fills them up often with something about you. Strangely, self-blame can feel like control. If it's my fault, well, then I can fix it. If I missed all the signs, well, then I'm going to get them next time. Or if I wasn't enough becomes I'm going to just keep getting better and better. And that gives the illusion of control. And once you decide on a story, your brain starts looking for evidence that it's true. So if you have a story that you're not enough, you're going to notice rejection to support it. Or if you have a story that you can't trust yourself, you'll replay every decision that didn't work out. You're going to start collecting proof, and then you build your case. And eventually, that story stops feeling like a story, and it feels like truth. And when something feels like truth, you build your identity around it, and then you respond from it. That's how painful moments become a narrative, and a narrative becomes who you think you are. So let's try to break it down so the story can just bring some awareness and we can unlink our identity from that story and maybe even create a new perspective. So I want to offer you just a simple reflective tool. Think about one painful or challenge you're experiencing, or even whether it's past or present. Just choose one for now. And then I just want you to name just the facts, just what happened. Strip it down. No interpretation. So maybe it's the relationship ended, or they left, or the plan fell apart, or I didn't get the job. Just the bare facts. And then second, ask yourself, what meaning did I assign to this? What did I make it mean about me? Maybe it became, I'm not enough, or I can't trust myself. I always mess things up. I should have seen it coming. Nothing ever works out for me. I'm not lovable. Usually it's something about you. And we don't really question that, but today we are. So third, notice how the story has shaped how you show up, or maybe don't show up. Do you pull back? Do you brace yourself? Do you stop taking risks? Do you expect the worst? Do you avoid connection or avoid going after things that you really want? Just bring awareness. This is not about blaming or judgment with yourself. We really just want to bring awareness to the event, and then the meaning, the identity, and the behavior. That's the cycle. That's the pattern. So when you catch yourself spiraling, you can pause and ask yourself, what is the event? What meaning did I assign? What identity did I create? And what behavior am I now doing because of it? And this awareness alone can begin to at least unlink you from it and break the cycle. And this is not about denying the pain of what happened or trying to find a positive mindset. The loss is real, the disappointment is real, the grief is real, and that absolutely needs processed. And this is part of that process, is unlinking yourself from that story. And it just helps to separate the event from your worth. There's a difference between the relationship ended and I'm not lovable, or I didn't get chosen and I'm not enough, or this fell apart and I ruin everything. You feel the difference? The event may be painful, sometimes really, really painful, but the identity story is something you create from the pain, and that's something you can change. When you look at it this way, you can start to see the cycle a little bit more clear. The event happened, a meaning got attached, that meaning shaped your identity, and that identity shaped your behavior. And just seeing that alone is powerful enough. So here's a question I want you to sit with. Is the meaning I assigned the only possible interpretation? And it doesn't have to be the most positive or the most spiritual. Just, is it the only one? And likely it isn't. Is there one that could support you better, that doesn't have to lessen your worth? So if the relationship ended, maybe one story you created is I'm not enough, but another one could be, well, we weren't aligned, or they couldn't meet me where I'm at, or this wasn't meant to continue. Or if you didn't get the job, if your story is I'm not capable, perhaps another one is, that's not the environment that I thrive in, or there's something I'm still learning, or there's a different opportunity that's going to align better. And just really recognize the story and the event and how you're attaching it to your worth, and seeing if you can untangle it and find something that supports you better. And you don't have to leap all the way to I'm amazing, although you are, but sometimes the shift is just, I'm human and this really hurt, but this is the best with what I knew at the time. And even that is just enough space for something new to grow. I hope this was helpful. And if this resonated with you, I would love to hear what came up for you. Is there a story that you realized that you're carrying? Or what meaning did you assign that maybe deserves a second look? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And, your reflections also help other people feel less alone. And if you want deeper support walking through this and your grief or loss, and not just identifying the story, but really unwinding it and rebuilding trust in yourself again and trust in life again, that's exactly what I do in my Sunset to Sunrise private coaching journey. I'd love to connect to you. So if you want to explore that, I'll leave the link below and you can schedule a free call with me if that feels right for you. And stay with me, because as we continue this conversation and unpeel the layers, last week, we talked about the vows we make in pain. Today, we talked about the stories we tell ourselves and the meaning we assign them. And in the next video, we're going even deeper in how these stories don't just live in your mind, but they live in your heart and your body and your nervous system. And why you can know something isn't true intellectually, just like we talked about today, but still sometimes it feels like it's true in our bodies. And what it takes to actually shift that story in your body that might be holding on to it too. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you in the next video, and thank you for being here.